We welcome Coach David Geatz, University of Pennsylvania, head men's tennis coach. David, I got a little bit of a bone to pick with you right away. You're looking at a Bemidji High School 2015, and then myself, Red Wing High School 2014, blue chip recruits, no offers from UPenn. What's going on with that?
I don't know. How are your grades?
Excellent. That's true.
Not about a 3.4, 3.47. I don't know if that's UPenn quality.
Yeah, that'd be tough, though. That'd be tough. Maybe for a blue chip, we should have worked something out.
Yeah, so season just ended with for you guys. You won co-coach of the year this year with the Harvard coach, and then your one singles player, Eduardo Graziani, the Italian, but he lived in Switzerland. He was the first player in your guys' program history to win Player of the Year in the Ivy League. That's gotta feel pretty good for you and him. How do you think the season went?
Well, our season, it's good and bad. So we have the best season in Penn history, which is great. We were the first team ever to qualify for the NCAAs. We'll finish ranked somewhere in the 30s in the country. Our number one guy was Player of the Year. We set the record for most team wins, and so we had a great year. But the downside is when you look at that is, we're the first team in Penn history to qualify for the NCAAs. Well, how come that is? We've been bad for so long we can't make the tournament. So, but we did well. We had a lot of good players, and I think whoever wins Coach of the Year has ever got the best players. My old coach told me, "No animals, no circus. You need the players to win." And so we had a lot of good guys this year. We had a couple blue chip guys, and Eduardo played great. So everything kind of came together right for us.
Yeah. So it was Eduardo, and then I'm going to say their last names just because I'm not good with first names, but Kevin Zhu, and then Aditya Gupta. All three of those guys won awards this year for you guys, and they're all juniors. So are all of them coming back and even trying to go pro or anything like that? Or
yeah, no, Eduardo will try and go pro. He picked up about 8 ATP points, and he's doing well. And he's also Roger Federer's. He's practicing with Federer. Federer's from Switzerland, and he uses Eduardo as a hitting partner. So, which is a great experience for Eduardo. But I think that we had our best team ever at Penn. But I think we're going to be terrific next year. Everybody comes back, and we have 3 really, really good recruits. That we lose one of our top 10 guys, and we got 3 guys that are as good or better than he is coming in. So we should be really good.
Yeah, that's super exciting. I kind of want to backtrack and kind of get into just the tennis story of David Geatz. So you grew up in Grand Forks, North Dakota, and had a super illustrious career. You're now in the North Dakota Tennis Hall of Fame. You had an incredible, I think you were undefeated your sophomore through senior year. And I watched the interview with you and Tarek on Recruitable, and you have a super interesting story on how you kind of started tennis and kind of getting picked up by in New Mexico, like by the coach there. Can you just explain that story?
I can't remember exactly the interview, but I was going to go to school in Minnesota, and I think I won the sectional tournament, and I was going to go to Kalamazoo. And so the section called me and said to me, well, when are you leaving for Kalamazoo? And I said, I don't even know what Kalamazoo is, which was the National Junior Championship. And so they said, well, it starts in a couple weeks, and you won the turn, so you can represent our section. And I said, well, I can't get there. I don't have a car. I don't have any money. So the section gave me a plane ticket to go. They paid for my way to go, and I stayed in the dorms and just walked to the courts, and I played, and the coach from New Mexico saw me and gave me a scholarship and asked me if I want to go to school. And I said, sure. So he called me after the tournament was over, maybe a month after the tournament. I said, sure, when does school start? And he said, well, it started 2 weeks ago. And he said, but we had a player that was on a full scholarship that didn't show up, so we have some money. And would you come? And I said, why not? Let's go for it. So I never saw the school. I didn't know where it was. And he picked me up at the airport, and I got off the plane, and I was entered in the first tournament, the El Paso Roadrunner Classic or whatever. So I played it, got off the plane, walked and played a tournament, and showed up for class 2 weeks late. And that's where I stayed with Ocho in a hotel.
Were you roommates with him? Or?
What's that?
Were you roommates with him?
Well, there was no dorm rooms left because it was too late and they sold them all out. So they put us in a hotel room about 5 miles off campus. And so I stayed with Ocho for about a month or something like that, maybe a couple weeks till the dorms opened up.
Were you guys in the same class for school?
No, he was older than me. But I think he had went for a year to Fresno State, and then he came back and he redshirted a year. And while he was redshirting, he became eligible that year. So I think Dave's two classes older than me.
So did you, after your time at New Mexico, you went over to Europe and played some pro tournaments over there. So did Ocho go over there with you as well?
Yeah, I went over with Ocho. We traveled for about 3 months over in France and played some. We went over to Bulgaria and got a few ATP points and our first world ranking. And I traveled with Dave, and then I got homesick. And Dave didn't get homesick. He wanted to keep playing. So I think Dave maybe stayed almost a year over there and played.
So you came back, and then you were kind of working on school and stuff like that. And New Mexico job popped open because I think the coach quit mid-year. Is that right?
Yeah, everything just was happened to me. It was pure luck. My dad told me, "You're the luckiest guy I've ever seen." He said, you could fall into a pile of shit and walk out with a brown suit on. And I think he's right. I wanted to be a pro, and Ocho and I practiced hard. I played a lot. I played every day. I put everything I had into it, and it took me about 2 years out on the pro tour to realize that I just wasn't talented, wasn't good enough, just couldn't compete at the level. You need to be top 100 in the world to really make a living and say you're a pro tennis player. If you're top 100 in the world for 10 years, you're a pro. And I thought, you know what? I'm not good enough to make it. So it took me about 2 years to realize, but Ocho and I had a great time doing it.
So you were 3 months over in Europe. So then if you were playing for 2 years, was the rest of your time back in the States trying to play in those tournaments?
No, I played for a year before I went over with Ocho.
Okay.
I played for a year before I went with Ocho. Then I went for 3 months with Ocho. Then I came back and I played a bunch of U.S. tournaments. And I just thought, wow, I'm just not having the results you need to. And I've been out there for 2 years. And I think the reason why I quit is I got hurt. And then I also kind of realized I thought I was at the end of my talent level. There's a point when you're not getting better. I think I would have kept playing. As long as I'm getting better and better and better, I'm going to keep playing. But I thought, I just didn't see myself getting better the last 6 months.
With Ocho, so when you came back from Europe and stuff like that, how long did you play professionally? Like once you got back, was it like 6 months?
A couple months. Just a couple months is all I played. And then I went back to school. I was going to try and get a master's in electrical engineering. And, the same thing happened. I was just helping out with the tennis team. And at the time, I was better than anybody on the team at New Mexico. I was getting my master's. And so the coach quits in the middle of the year, and it's January. And the athletic director asked me if I'll be the tennis coach, just kind of on an intern basis. So I took the job on an intern basis and didn't take any classes. And the team ended up having a really good year. And I realized I think this is kind of fun. I like it. I like a lot. I thought I would be a better tennis coach than an engineer. So he just offered me the job on a full-time basis. And that's how I just kind of stumbled onto that too.
Were you coaching some of the people you played with, or were you removed at that point from those players?
No, I was gone. I graduated and I played for 2 years and was another year back in school. Yeah, I didn't coach. None of the guys I coached were my teammates.
So coached at it was a University of New Mexico, right?
Right. Yeah.
So coached there for, I think it was 5 years, and then coached for the Gophs, right?
Yeah, I was a tennis coach for Minnesota for 18 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
Matt and I both Minnesota boys, so we love that.
What year did you guys graduate from high school?
2015.
And then I was 2014.
I think my last year at Minnesota was 2004 maybe, or something like that. I can't even remember.
Yeah. So after a time at Minnesota, you went to out to Hong Kong to go be a tennis pro out there and kind of teach. What was the reasoning for that?
I had a friend and he told me about this job in Hong Kong, and it was kind of a weird deal, but he said, you should check this out. So I said, okay. So they flew me over to Hong Kong and they offered me the job. And the Hong Kong Country Club is the richest club in all of Asia. It sits right on Repulse Bay on the South China Sea. and they say 90% of the GMP out of Hong Kong comes out of that club. It was just billionaire city. And they offered me the job, and I said, I didn't want to do it. So I said no, and I flew home. So they offered me more money, and I said no. So they offered me more money and flew me back again. And I figured, I was 50 years old, and I figured, okay, one big adventure before I'm ready for the rocking chair. And so I just said, I'm going to go for it. So I went over to Hong Kong, and it was awesome. It was one of the best things I ever did.
Yeah.
Wow.
Then came back. You were Ohio State, or like a kind of like co-head coach for Ohio State?
No, I was the assistant coach for Ohio State. One of my friends called me up from Hong Kong. My wife wanted to come home. Her mom got sick, and she didn't want to be in Hong Kong without her mom. So my friend was a tennis coach at Ohio State, Ty Tucker, and he's done a great job. He's their top 10 in the country every single year, Ohio State is. And so he called me up in Hong Kong and said, hey, I want you to come coach with me. And let's go win a national championship. We can do it. And so I said, all right, my wife's coming back. I don't want to be in Hong Kong by myself. So I went to Ohio State and worked for Ty for a year.
And then you got introduced to kind of that, the Ivy League. You went to Cornell after that for a couple seasons. Then you got your gig at UPenn and kind of have been there ever since. Is that kind of where you want to end your career, is at UPenn, or do you have any other plans or anything like that?
No, I want to finish. I'm going to finish my career at UPenn. I was tempted once. Maybe I could have got the job at University of New Mexico and went back to school where it was be kind of cool to finish your career where you started and also your alma mater. And they offered me the position, but it just didn't work out at the time. I would have taken it all for selfish reasons. And I think Penn's been really good to me. So I figure I'm going to finish at Penn, and that'll be it for me.
Ocho told me, he's like, hey, you have to ask David about him playing Brad Gilbert. So do you ever play Brad Gilbert before?
Yeah, I did play Brad Gilbert. I played him at the Southwest Sectional Championship, and I played Gilbert, and we actually became a little bit friendly. He was transferring, and I wanted him to come to New Mexico, so I started calling him so I'd have a good teammate. But I did play Gilbert, and we got in a big argument, and I still remember Gilbert thought I cheated him in a tiebreaker, and the next ball in the tiebreaker on a big point, I hit a ball in the middle of the court, and he grabbed it and called it out and went and ran and got an umpire. And so he was like, I didn't think he was that good. He couldn't hit the ball hard, and but the guy would do anything to win and was a great competitor and was super smart. And yeah, he called the ball in the middle of the court out when I played him.
Did you end up getting the dub in that match?
I did win that match. Yeah. So it went. That was a good win for me. I'm glad that's the only story Ocho brought up. He knows all my embarrassing moments.
Yeah, he had very high praise about you and stuff, and yeah, we definitely appreciate you coming on and stuff like that. It definitely means a lot for us, and especially being a Minnesota Gophers coach and you being from Grand Forks and stuff. We definitely relate to those atmospheres since Matt played up in Grand Forks at UND and stuff like that. So yeah, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I love the Fighting Sioux. I grew up with those. I guess they're not the Fighting Sioux anymore, the Fighting Hawks.
Yep. Yeah, I was a part of 2016 was my sophomore year when they unveiled the new logo. And it was
What'd you guys think of that?
It was, so the name change wasn't too bad, honestly, because we had a vote on it and stuff, and we got to keep fighting, which was a big part of, obviously the culture at North Dakota. We wanted to keep, some of that tradition alive. We knew the Sioux thing was going to be gone because the NCAA came down pretty hard on UND, but we said, well, if we can keep fighting, then, at least we have that, and we can keep some of the culture alive. And then, so we got down to it. We got Fighting Hawks, and then so that was voted on by students, alumni, stuff like that. Went through a whole process, and then out of nowhere, they unveiled this logo out of nowhere. We were kind of under the assumption that maybe we were going to have like a native artist or somebody from North Dakota design the logo for the university, and basically it was just revealed in a press conference. At least I wasn't, and our team wasn't given a heads up on that, really. And so, yeah, it was just unveiled out of nowhere. And obviously campus and alumni were furious. And it's been, I think people are adjusting now a little bit. When you go to hockey games, obviously you don't see any of those logos, but the one upside of getting a new logo in the fall is you get that big box from Nike with all the new gear. So they did hook us up a little bit of extra gear and made sure we're wearing the Hawk around campus. But you can't avoid the side comments from all the students mad at Chip for wearing it. So
how were the Sioux Indian tribe? Did they want the name change, or were they proud to have their name associated with the school?
It was mixed. Yeah. So a couple of the tribes did, and one of them didn't. And so because one didn't was basically why a lot of the change happened. And then just that's kind of my understanding of what happened. So when I actually signed there in 2015, in the fall, let's see, no, it would have been spring of 2015, my senior year of high school. We were the University of North Dakota with no logo, just the University of North Dakota with the ND, similar to Notre Dame. Yeah. And I actually kind of like that because it's kind of a sharp, I think it's kind of a sharp logo, to be honest.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah. I thought it was unique, and I thought it was, kind of not having a mascot. I also thought was maybe kind of unique as well. Just the University of North Dakota and just represent, North Dakota, the state. I thought was kind of a unique thing, but the university wanted to obviously go in a different direction. And so we got to keep fighting, which was nice. But yeah, the Hawk name wasn't that big, but the logo was a big deal. I remember that. WDAY, I believe, is the TV station, had vans all over campus. We were told not to interview anybody because, with Division I athlete, I'm sure it's at UPenn too, with any news thing, you have to get clearance in the athletic department and stuff like that. So we were told not to speak to the media and stuff like that. So it was a crazy, probably 3 months with that. But we got through it, and Tom obviously, helped us through that, and was a really calm presence as we're dealing with all the alumni angry at all of us for wearing the new logos and stuff. And it's kind of a weird spot for us athletes to be in, because it's like, well, do you want us to not wear the stuff? Like it's
no, everybody loves Tom, and Tom's an easygoing guy. And so, hey, I have a question for you guys. How come North Dakota State doesn't have a men's tennis team?
No idea.
Don't understand it. I mean, well, you look at the Summit League, for example, and you have great teams in the Summit League. You have Drake, you have Denver. North Dakota has really come around since I've been there, since I've left. I mean, in the past few years. And they have Courts Plus there too in Fargo. So it's not like they don't have actual courts to play at. It's just it's kind of weird to me, because so many of those Summit League teams have teams. So I don't know. I hope they have one. I mean, that's something that I definitely missed at North Dakota, not having a true rival. I mean, I guess South Dakota State was a rival for us. Omaha, I guess you can kind of say too, but we didn't have like a true rival there, which you do in other sports like UND, NDSU.
Yeah. Who's UPenn's rival?
Princeton.
Yeah.
Princeton is 45 minutes away, and Princeton's a tough school to recruit against because Penn's got great academics. But when we think great academics, probably the big three in the Ivy League, you probably think Harvard, Yale, Princeton. And so they're a little hard to recruit against. And, there's a saying at Penn that they tell all the guys that, hopefully you'll remember your wife's your anniversary, and hopefully you'll remember your kid's birthday, but you'll never forget the day you beat Princeton.
Yeah, there we go.
Princeton's our big rival for sure. It's like UND, North Dakota State.
Right. Yeah. Great rivalry.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Matt.
Oh, I have a question a little bit about recruiting. So in the Ivy League, if I'm not mistaken, there's no athletic scholarships, correct?
No, there isn't. It's expensive. It's $78,000 a year to go to school in the Ivy League. Not only is there no academic scholarships, there's no athletic scholarships. There's no academic scholarships. There's nothing. It's just financial need based. What the Ivies do is each of the schools, Penn probably has a $20 billion endowment. Harvard is the largest endowment. Maybe they have $55 billion. So what the Ivies say is, we're going to spend that endowment money, that if you want to come to school at Penn, we're going to make sure you can afford it. Not through scholarship, but but it's kind of roughly a sliding scale. Maybe if your parents make less than $110,000 a year, you go for free.
Wow.
About 10%. If your parents make 200 grand a year, they're just as roughly speaking, it's going to cost you 20 grand a year to go to school there. So they'll pay the rest, no loans, anything. They say, if we want you, and we're going to make sure you can afford it if we want you, and we're going to admit you. So
Wow, that's a great system.
Scholarships. Yeah.
So those foreign players who it's a little bit harder to like gauge like income from like their parents and stuff, just because it's like not the same place. How does it work? This just the same way, or do they get
no, at Penn there's no international. Well, there's very few, but we've never had a foreign kid on international aid. We can't get any spots. So if you're an international kid and you want to play tennis at Penn, you pay the full boat. There's no scholarships for you.
Yeah, but you get the opportunity to play D1 tennis, and get to play amongst some great schools too. So.
Yeah, and I think that there's a lot of people. It's not the money anymore. I think it's, parents will get cheap, but if you've got a kid and it's your kid's dream to go to Harvard, or it's your kid's dream to go to Wharton or Penn, they're going to pay it for the kid. They might not spend the money on themselves, but if that's my kid's dream, I want to make sure I can do it for him. And so I think there's a lot of parents too that they make a lot of money out in New York and the East Coast. And so a lot of the kids come from very wealthy families, and it's not a big deal for them to pay it.
At UPenn, so tennis hasn't really been that much of like the history of it. Like when you got there, did it kind of take off a little bit more? Like what was the history before you got there? Was it just not good, or?
No, we've had some good teams, but it's, without the financial aid packages that the Ivies offer now, and you're going to pay $78,000 a year to come to school. And so the average student for me to get somebody in Penn, I need about a 1,500 SAT, and I need about a 395 GPA. And if you got a C, you're not getting in. So all of a sudden, you want to be top 20 in the country, you want to make the NCAA tournament. Well, it costs you $80,000 a year to go to school, and you need almost a perfect SAT and maybe 1 B on your high school transcript. So the amount of kids you got to recruit, it's a pretty small pool to do that in. So it's tough.
Yeah. With that small pool, do you think kids more so reach out to you, or do you think you kind of find the kids first, just because like it takes a special person to kind of go to, those Ivy League schools?
Well, you know what? If I think a little bit of both. It does take a special person, but if Harvard calls you up. When I was at University of Minnesota, I would call some of the top 10 kids in the country, and a lot of those kids, they're not going to answer my call. I'm University of Minnesota, and Minnesota is a great school, and it's great academics. We were top 10 in the country when I was there. We won the Big Ten 4 years in a row. We had really good teams, but there's a lot of kids. I'm not going to Minnesota. There's no way. But if Harvard calls you, or Yale, if Harvard calls you, you're going to pick up the phone. Your dad can say, Harvard's on the line. Talk to that guy, So you do have a little bit of an inroad just because of the prestige of the school. And I think one of the biggest sells at Penn is Wharton. If you want to go to the best business school in the world, what is it? I think if you Google the best business school in the world, Wharton's probably going to be top 3 on any Google search you do. So all the kids know that. Internationally has a big name too. So the Ivies kind of sell that, you invest now, but you're going to really get your money back in the future.
Yeah. Kind of going back to your playing days, I was kind of been curious about this, just because it seems like the competition then was like more fierce than it is now. Maybe not necessarily in like level, but like now you have social media, so you can just like you see everything about what people are talking about each other, and I feel like people are a little bit more sensitive about what they're saying about other people. But it seemed like back then you just like you went after each other. You wanted to win. Do you think the competition's like fiercer then or now?
Well, this isn't really answering your question, but the level, it's better now. You guys are way better than we were, honestly. You guys get way more shots. They say, was college tennis better when I played? No, it's better now. Number 6 guys are good. Before, if you want to hit the ball 100 miles an hour, you had to do everything perfect with that little wooden racket. Rack it back early, step in, transfer your weight. Now you can hit the ball 100 miles an hour, falling off your back foot, just snapping your wrist. And you guys today are way better tennis players than we were, and that's partly the equipment. but I think that maybe the competition might have been tougher in some ways. And I only say that because guys were more all sport athletes. You played whatever sport was in season. And now the really good guys, they're just tennis guys. That's all they do. And also Tom Wynn and I kind of grew up in the tennis boom where you couldn't get a tennis court. If you went down to Lincoln Park or Riverside Park, you could not get a court. You sat there all day, and when you just jumped on a court and that's what you did. But I think that you guys are definitely way better tennis players, and college tennis is way better. It's also the advent of the international players that have given college tennis so much more depth.
Right. Yeah. Who'd you play against when you were in high school tennis?
I played against I'm trying to think, the Northwest guys or nationally.
I'm just saying, like how'd you get so good so fast? You started in like eighth grade for tennis, or 7th, 8th grade in tennis, and you just like got insane over like 3 years. And there's no indoor courts in Grand Forks at that time. Like, how'd you get so good?
Who helped me was Tom Wynn and Tim Wynn, and so I was a couple years younger than those guys. So I was the youngest guy with older kids. And when I was in high school, I practiced with the college guys, and so that really helped me being the youngest, worst guy of the group. And Tom beat up on me all the time, and just it made you better. And I practiced hard though. I played a lot. I hit a lot of balls. And during the winter time, you couldn't play much, but it just made you hungrier to play in the summertime. And there was no indoor courts. Fargo just got courts. Maybe when I was a senior in high school, they built that indoor tennis center. But you asked Tom Wynn how many tennis balls he hit in the summer. That guy played a lot. He didn't get good by mistake.
Yeah, no, he tells us. You let us know.
Yeah, it's one of the, when I was your age, we was, whatever. But it's kind of true. We played a lot, and also I don't think we had the distractions. I mean, there wasn't any. It's Grand Forks, North Dakota. What am I going to do in the summertime? And there was no video games. Yeah, Facebook. There wasn't any of that. You just played all day long. And in some ways, I think that it's what you said. Everybody knows on social media what everybody's doing, and I think the internet has been the internet can be a thief of dreams. I say because if I would have known how hard it was to be good, I didn't know what my UTR was. Didn't have one. I didn't know how good the guy in Minnesota was. I kind of heard of his name maybe, and I didn't know this and that and what my ranking was. He just didn't have it. So if I would have known how hard it was to actually be good, I probably wouldn't have practiced as hard or went for it. But I didn't know better. We just kind of thought, yeah, we'll do this. I'm a good high school player. I'm going to be a good college player. Gee, I'm a good college player. I'll be a good pro. It just kind of, the internet gives you so much information. You realize now if you want to, if you want to be a pro, wow, the level you got to play at.
I'm super curious on what your thought is on this. So it seems like tennis players, like you kind of said before, just kind of like one sport athlete. They're just playing tennis all day long. And it seems like a lot of those players are, practice hitting. And then once they get into the match, they don't know how to win as much. Do you think having that multi-sport athlete teaches you how to win in different ways better? Or do you think tennis only is kind of the way to go?
Oh, no, I think being a multi-sport athlete is great. You got to learn how to compete. I mean, and that's what the team sports teach you. That's what the other sports teach you. You don't play to see who the better tennis player is. You play to see who wins. Right. It's not always the same. I mean, you've seen guys that look just like junky, and wow, that guy's tough to beat though. And you've seen guys pretty country club strokes, and but they're not as tough. And so for sure, you're not playing to see who the best tennis player is ever. Right. You're playing to see who wins, and there's a difference.
Well, thank you so much, David Geatz, for being on Tennis with Ike. We hope you have a successful next season, and hopefully you get all the blue chip recruits you can recruit. But thank you so much. I appreciate it.
All righty. See you guys.
Yeah. See you.
Yeah.
Bye.